I've seen this behavior before. They did it in oil. What they're doing is they're trying to ramp up the volatility. Somebody is desperate to try and break the psychology of the market. The minute the Trump administration comes out and says, look, we're collateralizing Bitcoin in a big way, what's the first thing they do? They have the price of Bitcoin. And they've probably been sitting on thousands and thousands of Bitcoins since 2015. This is about the only part of the Epstein story I even believe. That wasn't Trump saying, I'm worried because I'm in the Epstein files. That was Trump issuing a public offer of surrender to Davos and all of them. Now we start taking everybody down. Scott Bessent's on that shit, dude. That guy wants $20,000 gold. He wants to break these people. Gold needs to be revalued much, much higher. Bitcoin needs to be revalued much, much higher.
That's Tom Luongo, the geopolitical and market analyst who's been decoding financial power plays for years in his Gold, Goats, and Guns newsletter and podcast. In this episode, we discuss the coordinated attacks on Bitcoin by global elites.
It's the same people that have always been trying to nuke Bitcoin. It's going to be the ones that want to control the payment rails.
Why Bitcoin and gold are not rivals.
Those differences in the way they operate is both a blessing and a curse, depending on your mode of application. Ultimately, why I own both.
And why the Epstein Files release was not an accident, but Trump's direct attack on Davos.
That was a peace offering before total war. That's where we are now.
Plus, Tom shares incredible insights on the recent market chaos and where we're headed next.
I think the American charts will look very, very good.
All right. Good morning, Tom. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to dive right into it. So for like the last 6 months or so, whether it is or it isn't, it's felt like there's almost been a coordinated attack on Bitcoin. We had like the quantum FUD, and then we had the spam wars now followed up with the soft fork potential. Tether FUD is back on the table. And then the nice, crowning achievement, apparently Epstein is Satoshi. So I'm wondering, basically from your position, who is trying to nuke Bitcoin and why?
Oh, it's the same people that have been trying to control the payment rails since they virtualized their shitty empire a century ago. And that would be the city of London. And, by extension, Davos / Europe and everybody else. They don't want, Bitcoin, along with the virtualization of gold and silver, are the means by which they have extended the old empire into the 21st century by having control of the payment rail. So you get rid of, and by doing that, if you can control the value of the collateral and you can undermine people's ability to or desire to have any faith in that collateral, then of course you can it's easier to control the price. So, the minute the Trump administration comes out and says, look, we're collateralizing Bitcoin in a big way, we're going to use it to help revalue the collateral of the United States and to revalue our debt and everything else, what's the first thing they do? They have the price of Bitcoin. Over the course of 6 months. I mean, it's not that hard, folks. And they've probably been sitting on thousands and thousands of Bitcoins since 2015. This is about the only part of the Epstein story I even believe, that they would have been accumulating a bunch of this to be able to dump on the market whenever they need to. And then, of course, you create futures and ETFs and this and that and everything else in order to virtualize the Bitcoin space. And then you turn around and then you throw a bunch of FUD into the zeitgeist that, oh, well, I'm Jeffrey Epstein and I control the Bitcoin board. I'm like, that's nice. Yeah. Okay. So you control the miners too. And you control, yeah. Okay. The most, as I was watching a guy, I can't remember who it was. I was on Marty Bent the other day and he was like, it's the most like audited code in human history. It's the most public code in human history, but somehow Jeffrey Epstein in secret has been, pulling the strings of the world. I'm like, okay, why don't you go back to reading yet another John le Carré novel about how MI6 is capable of controlling everything? How about they're just a bunch of fucking retards and they're scared to death?
Yeah.
Maybe
actually,
that's just more operative. I don't know.
Right. That was one of the things that really stood out to me, too, is that I realized how naive I kind of was about it, because I always had this view in my youthful beauty that like, oh, the banks and the governments don't even realize that Bitcoin is a threat. And that was my one takeaway from the Epstein files of like, oh, no, they were onto this might be a threat as early as 2011. I was stupid to think that they wouldn't pick up on it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Yeah. And then, and the other thing is that you have to realize that it's the same way that they, tried to control the internet and they tried to turn that into it's the same thing. Whenever they have control over, whenever a technology threatens their ability to bamboozle you with their bullshit about how they control everything, then you realize that, they're in there immediately. So yeah, I mean, it's not hard. And maybe, it's like, and this is the part of this that's never made any sense to me about how people operate, when they think about Bitcoin, they look at the arguments for and against it, and they're like, at any point in this process, you could have, like the gold bugs or whoever. What I'm getting at here is that, and that if these people had the ability to control Bitcoin, it would have never got to 125 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if they ever had anything in the Epstein files that was actually going to incriminate Trump, they would have used it already. But you can't. So why don't you stop with the boomer arguments about, if it's not in my hands, I can't hold it? I'm like, fine, then encode your freaking 24 seeds on word seed on the freaking coin and pass it around if you need to hold something tangible. I hear there are 3D printers that'll do it for you. It's not that freaking hard. Yep. Like, I mean, if you need poker chips, like someone will make them for you. Like, it's not that difficult. Ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these things, all of these monies, all of these things that we're talking about are tokenized energy and tokenized human work. That's all it is. That's all Bitcoin is. That's all gold is. That's all treasury. And we're gonna the difference between gold and silver and Bitcoin and other hard collateral is that there's no debt instrument natively issued against it to then, which then obligates through a counterparty risk some person to call in a marker, and then the middleman who's moving those things around is the guy making the money. And that's what you have to realize. With Bitcoin, I was thinking about this the other day, just trying to explain it to people. I'm like, I get gold bugs and why they're like, if it's not in my hands, I don't own it. I get it. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I love my gold, and I love, and I have my Bitcoin on my wallets, and yada yada yada. I love it all, right? I understand that thing, but here's the thing about gold, and which is that in order for gold to be a flow mechanism, right, to have gold flow around the world in order to turn what is into what will be, which is the only reason we freaking act in the first place. Economically speaking, we have X, we want Y. How do we get Y? Well, with gold, as much as I love gold, it's reality. If you want it to flow with as little friction as possible, you got to trust the third party to vault it for you, tokenize it, stick it into the zeitgeist, into the ether, and go. Bitcoin, you don't need to, folks. It's right there. You can control. You are the vault. And the network is the flow mechanism, which you can interact with directly. You don't need to go through somebody else to get there. And no matter how you deal with gold, how you deal with silver, at some point you are going to have to take on that layer of counterparty risk. And that doesn't make it bad. Bitcoin maxis, it makes it different. There are advantages to that. Then, frictionless movement of money is not necessarily a net positive good for society, folks. Hate to break it to you. One of the great things about gold is that the minute you buy it, you've lost 10%.
Yep.
You know what the other thing is? When you sell it, you're going to lose another 10%. So maybe you're not going to move it immediately. Maybe you're going to save it and put it aside and stop thinking about it for a while. Maybe you're going to create for yourself a level of stability psychologically that Bitcoin can't give you. You have to, because you can move Bitcoin like that. Yeah, it costs a little bit of money. Depends on the day, depends on the mechanism, right? Depends on what's going on. Costs a little bit of money, that's fine. But you can move it. And you can move it whenever you want. You can move Bitcoin around like a ferret on a double espresso, to quote Dennis Miller. Gold, no, you're going to be more like a three-toed sloth. And those differences in the way they operate is both a blessing and a curse, depending on your mode of application. So ultimately, why I own both, why I love both, and slowly but surely I'm being convinced that potentially silver needs to add into the mix as well, because of the soon to be unavailability of gold to the average person. because it's very, very clear that gold needs to be revalued much, much higher. Bitcoin needs to be revalued much, much higher. And in order to offset all the debts, and silver has to, fill in the interstitial level, that level where the average person today can actually interact with the monetary system and the savings system in a way that has no counterparty risk at prices that they can actually function at. This is, I'm not, for years I said silver is nothing but an industrial metal, and until people start, putting it on their balance sheets or whatnot. And now we're at that moment. I said, well, if it ever comes to pass that people start using silver again as a means by which to put it on their balance sheets, I'll consider that it's going to regain monetary character. But until that time, I'm going to, say, show me.
Yep.
I didn't know I was from Missouri, but must have had somebody in a previous life was from there, but I don't know when. It would have been well before Missouri was Missouri. So, because my lineage goes back to Italy way too far. So,
Very Italian,
just
very Italian. I want to pull that apart a little bit actually, because that brings up a few questions for me. So, one, I for me, looking at the precious metals and the kind of little blow off top that we've had here just feels like euphoria. Like we just ripped up and we're taking a break potentially. I don't know if there's anything else. I don't think there's necessarily any funny games going on there, but there might be. But the kind of pulling all three of those things together, we had in the Epstein files, there was even a reference to it was, oh geez, I have it here somewhere. It was basically claiming that Fort Knox had none of the gold. Right, that it was saying in 2000, I think it was 2011, report for the IMF chief at the time, who was then later locked up in prison, saying that that's right, that there's no gold in Fort Knox. And I remember back in like March of 2025, we had both Trump and Elon talking about like checking out what's in Fort Knox, and then we got just kind of radio silence from them. So I could be not my area of expertise, but talking about capital flows, have we been seeing a capital flow of gold potentially returning back to the U.S.? And that might explain also why the price is running up, that they might be refilling the coffers.
Well, yeah, but I don't think, you see, this is the thing. I mean, the whole Fort Knox is empty thing is really kind of silly. Most of the gold that was in Fort Knox was 90% gold. It was U.S. credit.
Okay.
Which is not London good for delivery. So it was leasable. Right, as value. Do I believe that the Federal Reserve was involved in leasing gold into the gold market for years? Oh yeah, absolutely. Do I think those leases are still operative today, or part of the market? No. You know why? Gold's $5,100 an ounce. We're doing it right now, and it's up again this morning, and it's not backing off. Like the 2 weeks of the last couple of weeks of interesting. Like silver, I will agree with you, it was an emotional blow off top. It was clearly there was a lot going on in the silver market. But the gold market, no. Scott Bessent's on that shit, dude. I'm sorry. Like that guy wants $20,000 gold. He wants to break these people. He's very obvious that he does. And he's, silver is not part of the American monetary thing going forward. The monetary conceit going forward. It's clearly a mix of treasury-backed stable coins, a strategic Bitcoin, and gold reserve as collateral to undergird that stablecoin environment. And then silver is clearly still a strategic metal from an industrial perspective. I just don't see Bessent is interested in silver from that perspective. Clearly, we put it on the critical minerals list here in the United States. We're now moving maybe even as far as you want to say it. We're moving away from even a gold and or Bitcoin standard to a critical mineral standard. Mark Armstrong talked about this the other day. Tweeted out about, how the rush is on now, not necessarily for oil, but for a critical mineral stockpile going forward to deal with technology and the rest of it, and can't really argue with it. So I don't think we're ever really reached any kind of emotional top in gold, like the way I saw things happening with silver. Like I did my market report to my patrons yesterday morning. I was talking to them about this stuff, and I'm like, get to the gold chart and get to the silver chart. And I'm like, news for you folks. When, people are texting me every 20 minutes going 63,000 talking about Bitcoin, 61,000. Like at that point, that's when your ghost is supposed to say, I'm buying some, right? You should buy some. And when silver, oh my God, it's 115, it's 120, it's 125. That's when your ghost should be telling you, maybe you should lighten your fucking position. It's not that hard. That is what you have to learn how to do in this life. And when you get, I never saw that with gold. I saw a whole lot of people going, damn, 5K. Okay. Yeah, that whole blow off top between 4,800 and 5,500 happened really quick. And then we moved back to 4,700. And now we're back to 5,100. I mean, you can look at the chart on gold. Gold never threw a 1 bar weekly reversal signal. It never, technically, I mean, the charts are, ludicrous. Don't get me wrong. It's not like everything didn't go to ludicrous speed. And, we can invoke Mel Brooks, we can invoke the Mel Brooks and Spaceballs and all that. But that being said, because, I'm still like quintessentially Gen X over here. Knowing that we all went to plaid and the charts are insane. But at the same time, that's when discipline and reading your charts is important. Silver threw the massive 1 bar engulfing reversal signal last week. It's going to bounce around for a while. Same way that oil after the 12-day war kind of spiked and then collapsed. Right? I mean, when you see things like that, Bitcoin, I find very interesting. Both times or 3 times now it's attempted on a weekly breakout to break out hard. First to 125 when it finally broke through the 121 area and it broke to 125 and they beat it down like a redheaded stepchild. And they did the same thing at around 100 like 90, like 105 a couple of weeks ago or even a month and a half ago, and then slammed it right back down again. And the same thing happened about 3 weeks before this current slam down. And I'm like, I've seen this behavior before. They did it in oil. What they're doing is they're trying to ramp up the volatility. They need to wash all the weak hands and the speculators out of the market. When they wanted to destroy the price of oil, I said this from the moment the Biden junta started talking about how they were going to sell the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in the United States. That was a signal to London oil traders to go crazy, on the volatility side in oil, and that someone had your back. That no matter that would backstop your losses, you will increase. And the volatility in oil literally doubled over the course of like 6 months. Like it was insane, and it still is insane. And it's now only just now beginning to die down a year into the Trump administration. Well, they are doing the same. They're ramping up Bitcoin. They're ramping up the volatility in Bitcoin in order to get as few people keep as few people in it as possible, to keep everybody going, I don't know what to do with this. And so all the gold bugs sit on the sidelines. Well, if I don't hold it, I don't own it. That kind of thing. And that's how you freeze that part of the market out. And it's how you keep, because the fewer people you have in a market, the more you can control the volatility, because the more the market makers and the moneyed players have control over the bid and the ask spread. And when a market has nobody left in it to fleece, and two, and because again, you can't play volatility games because nobody's on the other side of the trade. Right. I mean, you can trade back and forth with each other and all that's happy jazz. But I mean, eventually even that becomes like really tired, and everybody just looks at the chart and goes, okay, fine, I'm just buying here. And you can see it this morning in Bitcoin. Like they knocked it down on the open this morning below 71 grand. It's now sitting at 69, and it just refuses to. Well, it did up until about 10 minutes ago. Was just kind of sitting at 69.5. Now it's back over 70 grand, and we're going to see, maybe we'll see a little bit of a pop. But someone has decided that 71 grand is as far as this bounce goes, so that they can set up the next bounce. And how you get people to come back into the market is to do what I just talked about, which is you create artificial resistance at 121. And then when you finally get the breakout signal at 125, you go, oh, cool, we're on our way to 250 now. And everybody backs off and goes, okay, we've gotten the breakout, let's go forward. And that's when the slam downs come. And when you see that behavior repeatedly, that's not normal market behavior. What should be happening is once you break above resistance like that, all the shorts should start flipping and going long because they need to in order to cover their losses. And it should be, the bulls did their work. They broke down the resistance. When you see the fake out like that. And you see it repeatedly in the same asset over the course of a 6 month, over a period. We saw it in oil for 4 years under Biden, and we're now seeing it for 6 or 7 months now in Bitcoin. Somebody is desperate to try and break the psychology of the market. Okay. They are pushing this market to a place for whatever their reason is, because it's not trading like a normal asset. On the other hand, we watched the Dow, for example, sit there and say, oh God, I just 50 grand is just too big a number. There's no way. Everybody's like, setting up on the 50 grand mark for 3 months now. And then on Friday, and someone was like, 51. And now we're off to the races.
CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The Tap Signer gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. One company I like pointing people to when they ask about Bitcoin mining is Abundant Mines. They were founded by Bo and Christine Turner after losing over $500,000 to broken promises in the mining industry. And they built their hosting model to remove the usual headaches. With Abundant Mines, you own your machines and keep 100% of the Bitcoin you mine. There's no revenue share, no hidden skims. Pricing is simple. One flat monthly fee covers power, parts, labor, and repairs. They also guarantee uptime. If a machine goes down, their hash rate redirect system routes hash power from their fleet, so earnings don't just stop. And every machine is insured at full replacement value. Everything is hosted in the US, powered by Hydro, and mining equipment may qualify for 100% year one bonus depreciation. Learn more at abundantmines.com/sessions.
I'll say it's working, Tom. Like the text and stuff that I'm getting text, I'm getting emails. I hit that point where, just like you were saying, you get the text about how Bitcoin's dropping. I was getting Bitcoin is going to zero emails coming through and people panicking. Yeah. It's really effective. It's been unbelievably effective. It's kind of from my position, again, having that broader knowledge of the technical aspects, it's really disheartening to have to go through and explain all this shit over and over again.
Right. Well, this is part of the thing. This is part of the reason why, I just do what I do, right? And if people want to subscribe, they subscribe, and that's fine. And I don't try and really pimp the service, but there is some method to the madness. There's a reason why there's the half an hour rant about politics and current events for that portion of my audience that likes that and doesn't care about the charts. I have people literally say, I stop listening to the market reports once you get to the charts. And I have other people who skip the rant and go directly to the charts, right? The point is that there's a reason why both of those exist. Both of those are there as a 2-act play every Wednesday and every Sunday, because the one informs the other and the other informs they inform each other, right? Because I sit down, I put the whole thing together. I actually write the rant or the talking points for the rant after I've looked at all the charts. I look at the charts first to tell me what the story is while I'm, looking at the headlines. And I think it's really important that when you can read a chart really well, and that's why I'm like, I'll teach you how to read a freaking chart. And I'll try and make it as simple as possible. It demystifies things. And then you see that's an unsustainable thing. And I was on with Alex Craner the other day. We were talking about gold and silver. And I said, and Alex is like, oh my God. And the thing in silver was unprecedented. It was like a massive thing. I'm like, Alex, my heart rate didn't even go up by 3 beats a minute. I mean, I've watched it so many times. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, they're doing that now. Sometimes you got to wonder whether or not you're just so emotionally scarred that nothing phases you, right? And, again, the most Gen X man in the world, fine, I get it. But at the same time, no, at some point, something like that was bound to happen. And every day that it continues to go higher is another day that, the probability of this reversing on us is, and I'm like, oh, there it is. Because, and I think I was telling the story to I had told the story yesterday for the market report. I remember when gold hit $1,000 an ounce, and I was one of those people. Oh, dude, I've been in gold since the brown.
I know.
I've been in gold since brown's bottom, for fuck's sake. Okay, let's not.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there silver at $120 an ounce, going, oh, the refiners only give me 85. I'm like, I bought it all at 4. Like, what do I give a fuck, right? Literally. But I remember when gold first hit $1,000 an ounce, and then the market opened up and then they played the games. They changed the margin requirements that Sunday night. They start bombing it in the overnight market in Tokyo, yada, yada. This is before Shanghai was even a thing, right? This was, 2008 or whatever the hell it was. And I'm like, I remember waking up that morning and I'm at work. I was still a chemist at the time, so I'm in my laboratory. It's the poor guy who was literally running back and forth, monitoring the bath and having to listen to me literally have a nervous breakdown, screaming at the why I'm watching Kitco and screaming like, why are people buying the dollar? Why is this going on? What's happening? This is gold. This is and I was like, I'm like, and I got done with that, and I sat there having a full-fledged nervous breakdown going, I'll never be that guy again. I need to know what happened. And, since then, because at that point in my life, like I didn't go 15 minutes without checking the price of gold.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. Like my entire emotional well-being as I was trying to figure out what was going on in the world was tied to the price of gold. And
I remember that for Bitcoin.
Yeah. Same thing.
It used to be the way. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so, every computer, every screen that I had in every, I'm an old computer guy, so I have a computer in like every room. I have the work computer downstairs. I have the gaming computer up in my office. I have, this, that, whatever. So constantly walking by, especially when you're working from home. Since 2011, I've been working from home. Like you're constantly just walking by it, checking the price. Oh, it's 1:30. Let's see how did the COMEX close today? How did the London close today? So it's European close and then this and that. Like all of that. I got so in tune with the rhythm of how it would trade. Like after a while, and then I'm like, eventually I'm just like, why are you stressing about this? You should be trying to figure out why is this happening? You get out of the mode of how they're, what's going on. When is it going to break out and do what you confirm that you're right about everything? Well, hey, but dude, maybe you're wrong about something. And then, the process. What I learned, of course, is that gold is the most politicized asset in the world. And so therefore you have to learn about politics. In order to learn about politics, you have to learn about geopolitics, and you got to sort of that. And this is where, and then, Bitcoin was kind of parallel to that for me. But, and now Bitcoin is rapidly becoming one of those things that is, you have to understand the politics of Bitcoin in order to understand why Bitcoin does what it does. And then once you do that, and you can read a chart, maybe 69,000 wasn't, or 65,000, 61,000 wasn't sustainable. You think? I didn't. And I wake up the next morning and it's 71 grand. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to go to 150 tomorrow, but you could get the false move down, collapse, spike bottom, V-shaped bottom, and then boom. It would actually be better for Bitcoin if it just takes a break, let everybody confirm the bottom. 61 grand, confirm that bottom. Give me a double bottom at 61. Get everybody just demoralized completely. You give me a double bottom at 61, as long as it doesn't turn into a triple bottom, I'm okay. You get a double bottom, you get a nice look. I hate to use like chart patterns because I don't believe in them, but the double bottoms I'm okay with. Double tops I'm okay with. Triple tops and triple bottoms are meant to be broken. Okay, because it's just the psychology. There is honest to God traceable psychology to a triple top and a triple bottom. I don't use lines on charts. I don't use MACD. I don't use RSI. I don't use Bollinger Bands or Intermoku clouds. All that fucking shit's bullshit. Just read candlesticks and you'll understand how the freaking market works. The Japanese figured this shit out ages ago. Simplicity it creates an ordered mind. And I know that sounds rich coming from this mind. But from me, from this mouth, I get it. But really, that's why I look at charts the way I do, is because my mind has the ability to go in 1,800 directions at once. Now I remember my therapist, very funnily, my former therapist saying to me, "It's not like you can't do 6 months worth of psychotherapy in one 5-minute rant." Like literally, my therapist said that to me one day. I'm like, well, yeah. So that's part of the reason why I do look at charts the way I do. Literally on my other monitor, I'm just watching a gold stock that I have some interest in, and I'm just got the 30-minute chart up, and I'm like, oh, okay. And there's nothing on the chart, just the candlesticks. I actually wish I could get like the little dashed line that they put on the screen for the current price. I actually want that gone too. I don't even need it. You should just be able to read the candles, and you'll know what's happening.
Take a look at those. No, it's funny too, because even one of the things I found myself thinking about, like, again, confirming the bottom would be great. Taking a break here, I'm actually not opposed to as well too. I don't think we're in a prolonged bear market. I don't think that's going to necessarily be there. Okay, beautiful. And then the other thing I was thinking about is that usually Bitcoin gets like a flush moment, like the ICO boom. We have an exchange collapse. I think we probably did need to wash out the tourists, people that really didn't understand even sound money theory, like why they're going to say even piling into silver or piling into Bitcoin. So I think it probably a little bit of a little time here and then start making our way back up would be a healthy place to be. But I kind of want to pivot for a second because we touched on Scott Bessent, and there's a bit of a blind spot for me that I want to go back and unpack a little bit. We talked about like the importance beforehand of moving from LIBOR to SOFR and getting kind of control over the price of dollars. And you were mentioning that like he'd be very happy with gold going to about $20,000 US to help deal with the debt situation. So I want to kind of get your update. He seems like a very interesting guy to me. He even mentioned Alberta independence, which I found wonderful. I want to get your sense on how that basically broader mission for him is going. The plans that Scott Bessent has, what the Treasury is trying to do, how are they doing? How is even the switch to SOFR working out so far?
I think everything is working exactly the way it needs to, which includes the scapegoating of Jerome Powell.
Interesting. Please tell me more. Yeah, we got Kevin Warsh coming up now?
Yeah, well, the point being is that they've been setting up since the beginning of Trump 2.0 or the second season of the Trump show, whatever you want to call it, that the Fed needs to be reformed. Well, how else are you going to reform the Fed than to tell everybody that the Fed needs to be reformed and give them a good reason to reform the Fed, right? So you got Bessent out there doing it from the financial services part, thing of this, swap lines and fraud and this and that, and banking regulation, the things that the Fed was never designed to do. And we should take those things back under the Treasury as per the Constitution and, the actual, legal system that, this country was founded on. And then there's the Trump side of it, which is, hey, look, they're building, the freaking Taj Mahal over there. And like, that's just dumb. And that's a waste of your money. And that speaks to the average person who doesn't even know what the fucking Fed is.
Yeah.
Doesn't even know what monetary policy is. You got to remember that, we all, we're all Six Sigmas away from the norm. We're all weird people because we care about monetary policy. Most people are wondering about, how they're going to get their kids home from soccer practice, for fuck's sake. And we spend all day talking about monetary policy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then what all this means and all these little things. And so just sometimes you have to jack out of that point of view. It's a great place to be if you're an expert in it and everybody wants, and if people want to listen to us, yabber about it, great. But every once in a while, you got to step back and go, how are we going to, if I'm Trump, how are we going to make this into an 80-20 issue that I can get 80% of the people to say, yes, we need Fed reform? Well, we got to start with something. So let's pick on Powell. And then, Trump wants much lower interest rates and he believes he can get them now because he's putting in the Senate is stopping him desperately from doing so. Clarity Act, binding up the Clarity Act, binding up the SAVE Act, all of this stuff, that not passing any of his legislation and everything else. Clearly what Trump wants to do is to remake American finance and American tax policy in the image of Alexander Hamilton. This is not even freaking, now that Steve Bannon is talking about it, I guess now we're all allowed to talk about it. That fucking asshole is trying to steal that talking point because he's trying to co-opt it for City of London and then make it his and then be the guy that's, he's Steve Bannon. He's the most evil fucking man in the American political commentariat. Period.
Side note that I see that Gates was saying that he was going to make a run for president after Trump.
Who? Bill Gates?
No. I think I saw Matt Gates talking about Bannon making a run for president. I could be wrong. I forget who it was. I saw something. Yes.
Please. Steve Bannon. Steve, the only run Steve Bannon's making is to the fridge for another beer. Okay, now, seriously, look at the free guy's gut, dude. Seriously, like Christ on a crutch. Got wheat belly like you wouldn't believe. Now, Well, what Trump is putting in place and what Bessent is putting in place, to go back to your original question, is that Hamiltonian system of political economy, whatever you want to call it. There's all sorts of ways of talking about it. The American system versus the British system of hyper financialized capitalism, and that it's the third way. It's many ways it's what Putin has done in Russia. It's what Xi has been doing in China, though with a much more classic kind of Austrian malinvestment veneer over top of it, because they have all this money floating around and what to do with anything, and too many friggin' people to keep from being unemployed. China's got other issues. Russia doesn't have enough people. China has too many people. They're both kind of trying to do the same thing. The United States has more than enough people, and yet we brought in 20 million friggin' poos. Like and I know you're in Canada, so you know it's even worse for you because they've doubled the population, right? Whereas for us, it's still less than 10% of the population. We need to get rid of all these people, every goddamn one of them, send them all back home, and let them go rebuild India. No offense to the Indians in the audience, I love you all, but get the fuck out. Okay, now, all right. So with that being said, let's lay it down. Clearly, what Trump and company are trying to do is that they want to remake the way America taxes and spends and organizes capital and allows capital to flow internally within the country, and then clearly of how capital flows around the world. I think that that's for the most part in process. It's being stopped. It's being fought tooth and claw by Congress, because Congress all works for the bad guys, especially John Thune and all those assholes in the Senate. But that will all break down, because this is what the other lesson of the Epstein files is. So I think it's all happening. You have to allow for the collateral to rise in value in order to offset the debt. I think they're making a very strong argument at this point that all of that debt that we think we owe is all stolen goods anyway. It's all fraud. Mm-hmm. The fraud, like the Somali daycare mafia, that was fraud. The American people should not have to pay that money back. Those debts that were incurred, you people stole the money and then handed it to the NGOs, who then they used to pay for purple-haired Antifa to attack, to work out their psychosexual issues with fucking ICE. Fuck off. Like, the women all need to go home and actually spend time with their husbands, and the kids all need to go to fucking therapy, or I don't know, handed a shovel and go dig a ditch somewhere into the middle of nowhere in order to learn how to sweat. Something needs to happen, but I don't give a shit what the hell it is. But that money, when you steal money, I am under no obligation morally to pay you back, bondholders. Now, the American superpower has been that we have never, ever defaulted on our debt.
Yeah.
For real, right? I mean, not
indirectly.
Not directly, right? That's one of our superpowers. This is part of the race. So this is the tension, but Trump has made this argument. And at some point he's like, you know what? I don't have to listen to you people. And then the crazier that the jilted ex-wife of Europe gets pissed off, and the crazier they get, the more Trump is going to have every right to just go and turn around and go, you know what? I'm canceling the $4 trillion worth of reserves on your central bank's balance sheets. Don't even think about making me angry. But you can't do that. Why? Well, how can you do that? Because fuck you. That's why. Because you people can't build, the British can't build ships. Okay. The French can barely make cheese. Right? The Germans can't make cars. And we're supposed to listen to these people as if they're the insouciant wise masters of the fucking universe. How about, why don't you go fuck yourself and we'll call it even? Which is what Trump did for a year over the Epstein files. If you go back and you really listen to Trump, not with a generous eye or just get neutral. Take your opinion of Trump out of the equation. Go back to, I can go back to like my 2019 self or 2021, 22 self. I'm over Donald Trump. Let's move on. Find somebody else that can stand, that can bear the standard, and let's try and rebuild America. Right. I didn't think it was Trump in 2022. I go back up and he's saying all these things about the Epstein files all last summer. While Thomas Massie is like, it's like, whinging his mangina in public. It was hilarious. About the Epstein files. And I'm like, he kept saying over and over again, let's just put this to bed. These things don't matter. Let's just put them to bed. Too many good people are going to be hurt. Too many bad people. A lot of bad people will be hurt. But all this stuff. Why don't we just put Epstein to bed? It's the corpse that will never die. That wasn't Trump saying, I'm worried because I'm in the Epstein files. That was Trump issuing a public offer of surrender to Davos and all of them. Why don't you just give up? You get to keep the money you've stolen. We're not going to prosecute you for the kids you freaking killed or diddled or anything else. We're going to let it all go. We're going to forego revenge and we're going to move forward. And we're going to take this thing and we're going to put it in a vault and we're going to leave it there. We're going to keep the seventh seal unbroken for the most part. Very similar to the Putin thing he did with all the oligarchs back when he first took power, right? So Putin called all the oligarchs in and said, look, here's the deal. You get to keep all the money you stole. You get to keep the shares in your companies, but we're going to nationalize. We're going to take partial ownership of these things, and you guys won't have to pay anything back as long as you stay out of politics and you allow us to rebuild the country. If you're okay with that, we won't ever bother you. You can go move. You can move overseas. You can live on the Mediterranean. You can spend all the money you want. You can fuck all the whores you want. You can do anything you want. Stay out of Russian politics, and you're good. And of course, Mr. MI6 himself, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, couldn't do that. So Putin said, "That's nice. I own you, Coast. Fuck you. Go to jail. Fuck off, Bill Browder. You're all done." And a couple others. That's what Trump just offered these same people. And they told him no. Do you think Thomas Massie got the Epstein files released? No, Trump let them out. Now we're watching Peter Mandelson crash out. Now we're watching Keir Starmer crash out. Now this morning, one of the governors of the Bank of France just stepped down. Japan just declared massive independence yesterday. Like all of these things are happening. And we're taking gold to $5,000 an ounce, and we're going to destroy the LBMA, and we're going to destroy the LME, and we're going to destroy you, and we're going to destroy you. And by the time we're done, we're going to sold the whole fucking city of London with salt, and you people are never going to ever victimize anybody ever again. That was a peace offering before total war. That's where we are now. And if you look at it that way, dispassionately, I know I just kind of give you the pants on it, but if you look at it dispassionately, that's what he did. It was a mob boss offer from one end of the high table to the other. And just like in the John Wick movies, the high table said, nope, we're in charge. The rules matter, rules and consequences. We're in charge, not you. Oh, really? You think so? Okay. Now we start taking everybody down. And I think that's what we're going to start to really see over the course of the next couple of months. And I don't mean that it's all going to go through Pam Bondi or anything like that. I think Bondi and Patel were brought in because they're loyal, kind of stupid, and just talented enough to start cleaning up their departments. If Trump wins the midterms, which I think he will, because again, yeah, I'll tell you why. Because the SAVE Act is going to pass, and then we're going to actually have a fair election in this country. Between the redistricting numbers and everything else, we're going to find out that America is 65-35 red, not 52-48. Yeah. Okay? Like, at some point, the women are all going to stay home because there's going to be it'll be over. Yeah, like he'll win. If they can't cheat and ballot harvest for 4 months, they can't win the election. They can't take the House. They did that in 2024. They ballot harvested for 3 months to steal 40 seats in the House and 5 Senate seats. You think that's going to happen again? Really? It may happen in California because there's maybe no way to stop California, but who gives a shit? It won't be enough. And so it's not, again, long time between now and November, Robert Barnes works for fucking Steve Bannon, who works for City of London, who, he's crashing out. Rich Barris is crashing out. Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen is crashing out. They're all measuring noise. Statistically, we haven't had a decent poll taken in America in 25 years. This is the thing I think everybody needs to get through their heads. Does anybody remember Nate Silver? He had the model that could predict American elections. Yeah. And then they changed the algorithm on the machines to cheat even more. And then he couldn't win. Or maybe it was just like Brexit. They told us it was going to be 55-45 in favor of Remain. And it winds up 53-40 or 52-48 leave. And that's with cheating.
Yep.
So if they hadn't cheated in 2024, Trump would already have the entire thing done. I'm sorry, but gaslighting works everywhere. So why don't you stop trying to become armchair? I just stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, political commentary experts, and go out there and say, I don't want the Democrats and the crazy fucking Marxists to control the country. Why don't you stop whining about losing the fucking midterms and go do something about making sure that the midterms don't get stolen? And then it'll happen, just like it happened in 2024. But if you sit around, oh my God, Bitcoin's at 61 grand, it's going to zero. It's the same fucking demoralization play. It's the same psychological operation. Shut the fuck up and go out there and goddamn stand on a street corner. Have a little faith. I know we live in a post-enlightenment world where everybody's supposed to be too wise and insouciant to actually believe and actually have faith in the universe or anything. But, I get it, but maybe you should try that feedback on for once. It might actually work better for you. So I said at Cornerstone last year, I said, we're standing here today because I, like a lot of other people, chose to live in a universe where Donald Trump didn't get his head blown off on national television. We chose that reality and we're living in it now. This timeline's far, far more fun than the one that they had planned for us. Why don't we continue to have fun? I mean, and all that takes is getting up in the morning and going, yeah, I like fun. Fun is good. Let's do fun. And fun would be watching London turn into a Monty Python sketch. I don't know. I'd like to see Parliament literally turn into Faulty Towers. Now, I'm showing my age. That would be hilarious. Let's all turn it into just friggin' stupid goddamn farce and be done with it. Because that's what most of politics is. And let's get back to work, building shit and going to the moon and building high-speed rails and and look up as opposed to looking at our fucking feet. Remember, they told us what they think. Don't look up. Don't look up.
When I first got into Bitcoin, I was overwhelmed. The jargon, the security risks, the fear that one mistake could cost everything. I remember staring at my screen and wondering, are my keys safe? Did I do this right? That experience is why I started BTC Sessions. For over a decade, this channel has helped millions of people like you learn how to use and secure Bitcoin. But I realized something. For many people, videos aren't enough. Everyone learns differently. Some need to ask questions in real time as an expert walks through their setup, their goals, and their threat model. And certain things like advanced cold storage, inheritance planning, privacy, and node or mining setups often can't be fully solved by watching another tutorial. So I built BTC Mentor. I recruited the best Bitcoin educators on the planet to work with you one-on-one. Real experts, real answers, personalized, hands-on guidance tailored to your exact situation. Whether you're brand new or building a complex setup, we meet you where you're at and walk with you step by step. By the end, you don't just hope your Bitcoin is safe, you know it is. If you're ready for that level of confidence, then head to btcmentor.io and book a call with us today.
All All right. So speaking of Cornerstone, we got that event coming up here again in Calgary on the 28th of March. And speaking of fun and building things and maybe looking up a little bit, Tom, I did want to ask you about the Alberta independence movement that we have going on here. But I did want to ask you whether or not you think it's likely to happen or how you think it's going to play out. I want to take a bit of a different role. You got this wonderful game theory, strategic mind. I would like to ask you, how do I make it happen? What is the best strategy for actually pulling off Alberta independence?
Well, I think that the best thing you can do is to continue to watch Trump make mincemeat of Mark Carney.
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay. And then you should learn to walk. You should learn to crawl before you walk, before you run. Understand, and I said this to all the guys that, we met at Cornerstone last year, who, the guys who were helped Sean put it on and were theorizing about all this. I said, you should go for, the best scenario for Alberta, in my mind, is still territory. U.S. territory protectorate. You can have our tariffs, you can have our military, you can have our money, you can have all the benefits of being a member of the United States. No passport to cross the border, yada, yada, yada. Not state. Why? Because right now we don't really have political control over our own country. You don't want to go from being one economic football and political football to another. You want to take the time to rebuild your legal system, integrate American law over Canadian law. There's a huge, we all think that we're like all one, big happy family on North America because we all speak the same language. And certainly with Alberta, we all come from the same damn stock, right? Alberta was settled by Americans, right? I get it, but we're not. And culturally we are, but legally we're not. There's a lot of differences. And I'm learning this every day. I had the differences between Canadian law and American law. And I think it's very important that we do that. And just let's get past the crisis period of 2026 through 2032 probably is the right period to think about it. Let's get Alberta, standing on its own 2 feet, deciding what its destiny is going to be. And its destiny may be that you decide not to become a state. And yet you become a U.S. protectorate, and then eventually the U.S. says, okay, you want to be an independent country? Great. We're good. And we work it out. And then you pick up, and if in the process, you can pick up British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and then, we sign a couple of big treaties, and then you guys are like, you are Belarus to our Russia, because that's basically what it winds up being. I mean, Belarus isn't really, it is a separate country, but it isn't. It's in a union state now with Russia. And, what matters is, how we go forward rather than, all the legal definitions. I think if you keep it that way, right? And you say, we need to be independent because Ottawa's terrible, and it is. If you're worried, and if you're trying to sell this to people who are normie about it, who are not necessarily on your side of the political fence, i.e., and they speak about, oh my God, we can't do that. That would be too disruptive. Well, no, we're going to make it as disruptive, not as as non-disruptive as possible, and say this is the way we can go forward. And we're going to be Alberta for Albertans. I want, and work it out that way. And then over the course of time, let the chips fall where they may. If you guys become the 51st and 52nd states by converging, the 4 provinces leave, and you make 2 states out of them, or 3 states, or even 4 states out of them. I don't know. Fine. But that's let's get through this crisis period where the United States actually survives, because we're in a civil war right now. So, but the borders are all going to change, and you should really be, focusing on what's good for Alberta, and don't sell. This is the big mistake that conservatives always make. They try to sell people on the numbers. It'll be better for your pocketbook. It'll be better for this. It'll be better for that. I got news for you. As an old libertarian, that shit doesn't work. You got to appeal to people's hearts. You get right down to them and tell them, no, this is about our community. This is about our families. This is about what's best for Alberta as Albertans, and it has nothing to fuck the money. We can fix the money in post. We can fix all that later. If we have a good, strong community that we care about each other, and you reach across the political divide, that will be successful. But I've already seen it's easy to go to the money.
Yeah.
The money is the easy part. I got news for you. That left brain shit doesn't work.
Yeah,
you want to change, you got to get you got to get deeply into the hearts and minds thing. And you got to reach across the aisle and say, I care about your sons and daughters. I care about your small business. I don't give a shit that you voted for Carney. I want this for all of us. And we can decide on what and how we're going to organize ourselves later. And I'm going to demonstrate it by doing X, Y, and Z, and then go do it. And that will carry the day. And you'll have no problem.
I'm curious then too, on that note, I want to touch on a little bit on your thoughts on the interactions currently between Carney and Trump. What's going on there in terms of the relationship between the US and Canada? Because it seems to be getting worse, and not, again, another reason for me to want to get out of Canada. And then additionally, how you think that Carney and the federal government would respond to Alberta actually pulling off the independence referendum.
Well, this is the thing. If Alberta pulls off the independence referendum, let's start with that one first. That's easy. Yep. Carney's going to try and invalidate it in every way, manner, shape, or form. He's going to say no to it. The same way that the EU has never been willing to accept Brexit, right? I mean, we're still dealing with that. We're still dealing with that shit, right? They have their plans as to how they're going to, deal with that problem. The relationship between Carney and Trump is only going to get worse because Trump holds all the cards, and Carney is trying to, play this game that he's going to appeal to the EU. I honestly think that all of these people, the Keir Starmers, the Carneys, the Macrons, all the rest of them, they really do think that that they're going to be able to hold everything together until they steal the midterms, and then they're just going to, roll Trump out of power and put us all in the gulag. And they don't realize that at that point, I get on a C-17 with the snake eaters and my friend Blaine Holt, and I go to City of London and I shoot everything. Like, they don't understand how angry we all are. They have no idea. They have no clue. They think it's all, it's going to be one sigma more. Oh, you people talk about this. No. You have no idea. I have said this before in public, and I will say it again. Every time I've had a guy come over to work on my house, I don't do my own plumbing anymore. Thankfully, I have enough patrons that they would rather me come out and do another podcast or, put it on another newsletter or whatever than me sit around and be an amateur plumber. I don't need to do that shit anymore. I call plumbers in to deal with my freaking problems. And I can tell you that every time I've had a guy come out to deal with something around the house, and they listen to me talk for 15 minutes, and they're like, because I always sound them out, so I always start, yabbering. And this is, of course, North Florida. Like, they always just stop me dead cold, and they're like, that's okay, dude. All I need to know is one thing: when do we get to start shooting them?
Yep.
It's the same. I hear it everywhere. I say this whenever I say this on a podcast. The guy on the other end is always going, "Yeah, that's exactly the scenario here." So these people have no idea. They still think that they live in these gilded cages where civilization, we'll stay civilized. No. We're already beyond civilized. We're already past that. We're just trying to figure out whether or not you're going to actually take the gloves off. Not you, Nathan, but the royal you, the Antifa you. When are you going to cross the line? When are you going to come after my daughter or my family or this or that? Because the minute that happens, all gloves are off, and it will not matter. And I've lived in Florida, and I know what the sheriffs are like in Florida, and I can tell you that. And this is something that Canadians may not know about America. But in America, the power structure at the state level goes from the governor to the lieutenant governor to the sheriffs of each of the individual counties. The sheriffs are constitutional officers. They bypass the state legislatures. Meaning, if the sheriff decides to deputize a whole swath of the local population, and if you don't think at this point in time that they don't have a whole lot of guys, and that are ready, and here's the thing: you've seen all those like stupid friggin' American, the stupid friggin' videos, those are like TikTok videos of like, wokenistas in the American military saying, y'all fat assholes think that you're going to come up against the American military and you're going to like fight. No. I got news for you, dude. It doesn't take more than 6 weeks to get any fat swinging dick into shape. At Paris Island, 6 to 8 weeks, boom, send them out, go to war. Got news for you. We can all get into shape really goddamn quick. And who are you? Like, really? I've seen Antifa boot camp. It's hilarious.
Yep.
And it's pathetic.
Yep.
So, I know the one thing I will not underestimate is how crazy they are, meaning how committed they are.
Yes.
Watching Alex Preddy before, well,
they're possessed.
Before he, got what was coming to him. Because that's the only way you can describe it, folks. Yeah, all right. There will be no remorse, though. There will be no performance. So if you don't want to go there, fine. We're offering you terms of surrender, just like Trump did with the Epstein files. Now, are you ready or not? We'll find out. And that's when you as Albertans need to look at those who are squishy Albertans trying to maintain the status quo. I got news for you. When you reach the crisis point, that's when you find out where everybody's character is. And they're going to be looking to you. And if you guys are ready to lead, then you'll lead. And if you're not ready to lead, it's going to fall apart. So the big question is, do you have the leadership in Alberta to close the deal? I don't know about you, but in about 6-7 weeks, I get to finally look Danielle Smith in the eye and find out whether she's a closer or not.
Yes. I'm extremely excited to see you two both on stage together.
So that'll be interesting. Okay.
I love it. Tom, one more thing I want to get out of you to make sure we close everything out here. It's been a wonderful conversation so far is medium market outlook, right? The only thing that currently is popping off on my radar is it looks like jobs data in the US is coming a little bit negative, not looking so great. So I'm just curious going into the midterms, medium outlook for the year. How are things looking in the charts for you?
I think the American charts look very, very good. The U.S. equity markets are very good. Yesterday, I did a little Dow. I invoked the ghost of Richard Russell and invoked the little Dow theory, and noted that Friday was both a Dow Industrials and Dow Transports breakout on the weekly chart to new highs, and it's telling you that what Trump is doing is working, and any labor data you have to attenuate for the number of people that we're actually getting rid of and for the government jobs that are being destroyed.
Okay.
It's a complicated labor picture, but it comes down to, Americans are going back to work and Americans are coming off the dole and non-Americans are going home. And that doesn't really show up in aggregate, British propaganda media style economic numbers, which is why they report them the way that they do. Easy to write a story and a headline on Bloomberg or the Financial Times. They're good at it. They're very good at it. So stop listening to them.
Perfect. I love it. Tell everybody where they can go and follow you, check out your stuff, sign up for the newsletter and the Patreon. So
Patreon/Gold Goats and Guns, it's still way too cheap for what we offer every month. And TFL1728 on Twitter, TomLuongo.me, which is where the podcast gets posted. And that's about it.
Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.
If you enjoyed this episode with Tom Luongo, please help us out. Hit that like button and subscribe. And check out the previous episode with Giacomo Zucco.